This one is called Millennials. Pierced noses, lips, eyebrows, nipples, gauges, half an inch stretching ears, inked etchings blooming on skin once smooth. All this pain announced like a trumpet, like a trailer for truth. Is it self-hate or self-love, this drama? Bad decisions gone worse, and the noise, the clamor for attention. Look at me, look at me. Turn a deaf eye, go blind to sound, ignore the tumult. If you close your eyes, chant ohms in your head. Breathe in, breathe out. You might find a way to willingly suspend your disbelief. Thank you, and please hold your applause to the end, because in case you don't know where something ends or you don't like it, I won't notice. So just you know, you can go crazy at the end. The new book, Alphalexia, which is a word I made up, is a how to describe it? It's a very crazy book. It's very weird. Don't try to find any real meaning in it. It's just meditations on a letter of the alphabet. And it does go A to Z. I do cover every letter, and I'm not going to read a lot of them to you because it's better for you to read them yourselves. So I'm going to read a few select ones, but I've always loved the dictionary. Ever since I was a little girl, I used to read the dictionary for fun, and I even once wrote a poem imagining the dictionary as a novel, and like with a beginning, middle, and end, and it was just kind of, like the dictionary. So this book kind of just came out of my love for words. So I'm going to start with B. How round, how buxom. No wonder bosom begins with B. Say it aloud. It's a noun, a verb, a grade less than perfect. Observe its curves. How could it ever be second rate? Slip your lips around its minions. Babble, babble, bacchanal, such a gathering of hosts, all up to their ears in backwash, bogarting the bottle as if they own the world. From Baker Street to Bali, not one baboon in sight. Strange. Okay, the next one is G. Genetically speaking, we're all over the map. Moving up or down, notch by notch, one gene at a time, generating myriad codes from a pool as generative as tadpoles. We morph from gamete to general, genus to genius, gullible to galled. Look at it, completely figured, all curves and angles, a geometric anomaly. It's glowworms. So is glowworm so different from a grub? A guava from a gourd? Do grudges mutate generationally like the Hatfields and McCoys? Or do they only gyrate wedges between us? In the general sense of the world, our gilded grievances aren't worth a gigabyte of time. Time to trade up. I wrote. Okay, I said these are kind of weird. Okay, S. I've always wanted to use swizzle in a poem, with or without the stick. I love the swish of the zzz, the tickle on my tongue, the silly, salacious sound, the silken way it slides out of my mouth. It has a certain swag, I suppose, like using stipple instead of speckle, or swelter instead of sweat. Ah, the joy of synonyms, syntax, heaven, the stuff my dreams spin into life. The next one. And the cover, as you can see, this is also made up. I found a woman on the internet. I was trying to figure, what kind of image, Alphalexia. It's a word I made up. It doesn't really have an image. So I decided that letters would be the best thing. And then I tried to find some interesting letters. And then I found this woman on the internet who did these letters for coloring in. And I couldn't figure out how to color them in myself. So I wrote her. She lives in Australia, actually. And I asked her if she could color them in, and I would buy them from her or give her credit in the book. And she said, no, I don't want you to buy them. Just give me a credit in the book and you can have them. So she colored them in for me because, adult coloring is a big phrase, mindfulness. And then I decided on a blackboard would be the best place, so that's how that cover came to be. And I kind of like it because it's whimsical. So, of course, vagina. A concrete word if ever I've seen one. Notice I didn't vacillate and got it out of the way right off the bat. I'll say it again, vagina. Only because it's never been a word I actually liked. It's rather awkward and harsh, but now that I see it so prominent on the page, it has a certain grace, a definite void waiting to be filled, almost valiant in its patience. But enough of virgins, vestal or not, verisimilitude aside. Look at the formation. Take away the sex, and it's all sharp angles, suitable only for plains and geese. That may say more than I want about my sex life. Okay, and the last one I'm going to read from the book, and then I'm going to read some newer poems or other poems, is Z. These are all short poems, by the way. How long can you go on with this stuff? So Z. Zorro, right? That famous zigzag signature, fiery and swift as Zeus, who can transmogrify into anything he chooses in a zeptosecond, which is fitting since anything with a prefix starting with sex, as in sextillion, would make the king happy, eating grapes fed by hand. But let's not get carried away by the shine on his zoster. He went from zealot to zombie after the swan business. Nothing but a zonker in my book. What he ought to have done is find a garden, a zoftic plot of land, and practice Zen. A lot less grief, not to mention literature, would have ensued. And all the stories might have had happier endings. Don't you agree? Of course, that's Zeus and Leda and the Swan. I'm going to read one poem from an old book called Singing in the Key of L, which I did bring in case people don't have that and would like to have it. There's a few. And this is probably one, people always say, do you have a favorite poem? Do you have a favorite? This one's probably one of my favorites. I did a little series on fairy tales, very short series. And I read the original fairy tales, so I went off of those rather than the Disney fairy tales. So, and in the fairy tales, the girls in fairy tales never had a very good time of it, really. So my girls sort of were more in control. The cape was never white. Little Red Riding Hood. First of all, I was not skipping. I never skip. But yes, I was eating strawberries. Red, ripe, delicious. I had heard rumors that girls who ate them would never want for men. I was after the woodcutter, not the wolf. But the wolf was quicker, sly and intense. I hadn't meant to enjoy it, but being swallowed whole was a definite kick no man could ever give. Okay, and then I'm going to read one from Geometry of Dreams, and this book is all about math and men, two things I don't understand very well. So, and one of my brothers did the cover of this book. It's a photograph of a sculpture he made. And so he kind kind of did what Plato would hate. It's a representation of a representation, which I thought was perfect for a book like this. So this one is called Romancing the Numbers, and it uses a character that I've often used and hadn't used in years, and my poetry group will be glad to know I am bringing a new Miranda next month. Haven't written Miranda in years, but this is Miranda. Romancing the Numbers. Miranda, naked, sits cross-legged on the bed. She is loving a man with her eyes only, because he does not exist. She has made him up in her mind, and he is the perfect lover. His kisses cover her body, reach every crevice, shed new light on darkness. Miranda rocks back and forth and shakes her head, counting beats of her heart. She is practicing love in the perfumed garden, the Arabic way. She is on number 14, and by the time she reaches 25, she will die of ecstasy. She knows this and does not mind. Desire is the wish for heaven, she says, her hands fluttering like hummingbirds around her body. She feels them peck and bite, knows the power of suggestion. What, after all, is reality but a different spatial plane, a riddle we move to, traveling in circles? It is not the answer, she thinks, that binds us. It is the question unasked, the one where purpose is not a definition, but an adventure yet to be had. Miranda sighs, lies down, and closes her eyes. Her lover sleeps, then brings her gently to 15. Okay, I've got a couple of newer ones. Mrs. Spratt. I seem to like writing the voices lately. Mrs. Spratt. Young, I was always plump, mother carving my body with pills, curling my hair with perms, tuck this here, let that out there, pads in the bosom of my dress, never quite right, the buttons always strained, the seams always split. That's how I lost my virginity, split seams and a kind offer home. Quick change artist that I was, I managed to capture a heart, but dreams wished upon a star have habits of coming true, wrap ropes around your neck. Still plump, I took what I could get. It was the 60s. There was plenty of getting to be had. The dark hides many things. A blue-eyed drawl offered revenge, a dish best eaten cold. I didn't listen and burned my tongue. Age turns plump to fat, but still I had my share. 3 marriages, 3 divorces, a child forever hungry. Nothing I ever did was safe. Nothing was ever in vain, except the diets, of course. But still, I wound up exactly who I am. I am going to read 2 more. I'm going to read one kind of sadder one, and then I'm going to end on a funnier one. Okay. Some of you have heard this before last month, so I apologize, but I feel like I need to read it today. How many of you know what a ghazal is? A ghazal, as they're called. It's a form that uses a lot of repetition, and the last line is supposed to have your own name, but I have a word that symbolizes who I am or my name, so I didn't want, it just didn't fit. So this is ghazal for my daughter. Each time we speak, my daughter and I, atoms explode in my daughter. There seems to be nothing I can do, nothing to say, nothing to save my daughter. If I gave her the trees, she'd want the sky. So great is the hunger of my daughter. Words are waves eroding rock over time. Everything breaks my daughter. Somehow it's always my fault, still my fault, for not living only for my daughter. The sun shines steady every day, but the moon waxes and wanes in my daughter. Too strong, she says, too harsh this sun, this mother, which warms, then burns my daughter. And then I'm going to read one more, and then Denise and I have a joint poem that we're going to close with, that we wrote together on a little trip we took. But this one, many of you in Florida and elsewhere perhaps have experienced this. This is a pantoum, and it's called Bedroom Graveyard. Ants have invaded my house, but not in the way one thinks. Behind my shoe basket, a cemetery of ants. Not in the way one thinks, with markers and wooden coffins. A cemetery of ants is a midden, a mound of bodies and dirt. With markers and wooden coffins, people discard their dead, alone. A cemetery of ants is a midden, a group carried away. People discard their dead alone, but ants are social creatures. A group carried away, a burial mound by my wall. But ants are social creatures, pushing up from the ground, a burial mound by my wall. All I can do is vacuum. Pushing up from the ground, I say some prayers for the dead. All I can do is vacuum. Ants have invaded my house. Okay. I forgot I had one more that I had to read. I forgot. They're here. They're for special people, and they're here. It's short. And it's called I Never Liked Opera, for Irwin and Janet. Having only been 3 times in my life before subtitled screens, and not a fan of fat sopranos making choked and gurgled sounds, and surprised to find lyrics to Bizet, Schumann, Ravel printed in tonight's program, visions of Spain, sung by young, promising divas and tenors, a stellar baritone I felt vibrating in my stomach, his perfect pitch matching the supple Steinway, gleaming just left of center. The mezzo-soprano, a slim version of Carmen, a red dress, her dark hair, her mouth as much a story as the lyrics she sang printed like a well-read poem. And sitting next to Janet and Irwin, vibrant and alive with the joy of it, I rather wished I'd worn a mantilla and brought my mother's castanets.